Listening Library presents The Zodiac Legacy, Balance of Power, by Stan Lee and Stuart Moore. Read for you by Feodor Chin.
Part 1. The Mountain of Fire. Chapter 1. Stephen Lee inched his way down the rocky wall, grabbing at one handhold after another. "Don't look down," he told himself. "You're not going to fall. There's a rope holding you up. A big, thick cow wrangler type rope strapped to the harness on your back. You're not going to fall. Just don't look down." He looked down. The chamber was wide and dark, made of yellow and brown rock dotted with shiny mica deposits. Little streams of water trickled down the walls. The cavern floor was at least 6 meters below, with a surface almost as jagged as the walls. If he fell, he could really hurt himself. "Okay," he thought, reaching for an outcropping in the wall. "You look down. That was a mistake. But it's okay. Just don't fall. Don't fall. Do not fall." He fell. The rock wall whizzed by at a dizzying speed. His harness pulled tight against his waist, but the rope went slack. "Great," he thought. "The rope's no good if it's not tied tight enough." He scrabbled and grabbed, slowing his fall, but his gloves kept slipping off the slick rocks. He twisted his body, willing the tiger, his Zodiac avatar, to emerge, to take control of his reflexes, but the tiger was silent. "Stupid," he thought. "The Zodiac powers are gone, remember? That's why we're here." A thick hand grabbed his arm, arresting his fall. Stephen cried out. His shoulder felt like it was being pulled out of its socket. Another large hand grabbed his harness. Stephen looked over at his rescuer, a big man in paramilitary gear, with a pack on his back. The man, Malik, had anchored himself against the side of the wall by digging a pair of mountain-climbing pitons into the rock and hooking them onto his own harness. "Welcome to the volcano," Malik said. Volcano. The word echoed in Stephen's mind. He'd been trying not to think about that. "You're all right," Malik continued. "Just flex that shoulder a few times." Stephen nodded, struggling to catch his breath. Malik shifted his muscular body, depositing Stephen easily onto a small outcropping. Like Stephen, Malik had once wielded the Zodiac power. As the ox, he'd been almost supernaturally strong. Now he was merely very strong. "You two having fun up there?" Stephen squinted down, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. About a meter below, another big man was anchored to the wall, grinning up at Stephen and Malik. A long scar ran from the man's thick blonde hair down his face, through his missing left eye. "I wouldn't call it fun, Nicky," Malik's voice echoed off the rock walls. Nicky reached up. "Want a hand down, kid?" Embarrassed, Stephen shook his head. He turned toward the wall and grabbed for a handhold, then stepped off the ledge onto the next small outcropping. Slowly, hand over hand, he descended to the floor of the chamber. When he reached the bottom, he shrugged off his harness. "With the tiger's power," he thought, "I could have made that descent in half the time. Being normal is overrated." Nicky and Malik made their way down the wall above him. When Nicky, Dog, had held the Zodiac power, he'd boasted a carpet of yellow fur over his entire body. Dog had been a fierce fighter. He was both heavier and stronger than Stephen, but when they'd fought hand-to-hand, Stephen's agility had made them an even match. Nicky and Malik had both worked for Maxwell, the man the Zodiac team had been formed to stop. After Maxwell turned against his own agents and stole all their powers, they joined Stephen's team. Like Stephen, they were just ordinary people now. "Kid," Nicky asked, jumping the last meter or so to the floor, "you still breathing?" "I just fell 20 feet, Stephen protested. "Give me a minute." Nicky turned to Malik, laughing. "I don't think the kid's used to working with this team." "We're all adjusting," Malik smiled. "I'm not used to taking orders from a 14-year-old either." 15, Stephen said. "I'm 15. Nikki and Malik were right. Stephen was used to operating with his old team, the team he'd worked with so many times in the past. He missed having them by his side. Ram, Rooster, Pig, and especially Rabbit. But those particular teammates were occupied elsewhere, and if Stephen was to pull off this mission, he'd need the help of every ex-Zodiac he could find, even those, like Nikki and Malik, who'd been enemies in the past. Nikki turned to stare up at the hole they'd entered through, 100 meters above. It was barely visible in the dim light, a dark spot on the yellow rock ceiling. "Josie!" Nikki yelled. "You coming, girl?" A fourth figure dropped into view, descending in a perfectly straight line. She let out her support rope with even, expert movements. Like Malik and Nikki, she was a trained soldier with years of combat experience. And I'm just a kid, Stephen thought. But I've got to lead them, somehow. Josie touched down and shook off her harness. Her eyes were blank. Her movements seemed unenthusiastic, almost robotic. She didn't look at any of them. "Jose," Nikki said, "you with us?" She turned and walked away. "We shouldn't have brought her," Malik said. Nikki glared at him. "Maybe we shouldn't have brought you." He turned and followed Josie over to the far wall. Stephen frowned. When he'd worked with her before, Josie, Horse, had been a ball of energy, a determined fighter who never gave up, with or without her powers. She'd guided Nikki in their defection from Maxwell's Vanguard army, leading him and telling him what to do. But something had changed. Josie seemed almost hollow now, a shell of her former self, and Nikki was taking care of her instead of the other way around. "We're not very deep yet," Malik said, running his eyes up and down the wall. "This volcano goes hundreds of feet farther down. How about a scan, kid?" Stephen nodded. He reached into his pack, pulled out a thick headset and fitted it over his eyes. A night vision HUD schematic appeared, bright against the black background projected by the virtual reality device. Green lines sketched out the uneven cavern floor and the angled walls rising up all around. 3 red dots, indicating Stephen's teammates, shone within the chamber. Readouts scrolled down the left side of his vision. Sensor range, 3.2 kilometers. Battery level, 94%. Chamber height, 24.7 meters. Width, max, 16.7 meters. Floor pitch, 8.4 degrees. Along the right side, a menu of options presented itself. Zoom, search, brightness/contrast, infrared level, refresh/reboot. He selected zoom and panned the image down. "You're right," he said. "There's another chamber below this one. I don't see any life signs down there." "That doesn't necessarily mean anything," Malik replied. "If Maxwell's got Vanguard soldiers hiding in here, they'll be shielded from our scans." The image zoomed out, revealing the volcano's entire shape. A mountain bisected by a large open mouth. Below the main caverns, a network of tunnels and corridors snaked through the earth. Stephen zoomed in on one of those passageways, 4 or 5 levels beneath the ground. 3 more red dots winked on, smaller ones this time. The second team, he thought. Their objective was as important as his, more important, actually. He wanted to contact them to make sure they were all right, but he had to maintain radio silence for now. "Any Zodiac power signatures?" Malik asked. Pain stabbed through Stephen's forehead. The HUD set was Vanguard tech, stolen by Malik when he'd made his exit. They'd managed to equip only 1 unit for the mission, and Stephen had barely had any time to practice with it. It gave him a headache. "What?" he asked. "The Zodiac tracker," Malik said impatiently. "Right, yeah." Stephen reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device the size of a thumb drive. He pressed it into a port on the HUD set, just above his ear. A large menu item appeared on the HUD set display, flashing blue. Zodiac tracking. "Is it scanning?" Malik's voice seemed far away. "That's your tech, not ours. I don't know how well the devices sync together." "I think so," The entire display went.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?